Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be, and welcome to today's webinar, Fashion Forward Integration for JD Edwards. My name is Glenn Johnson. I'm a Senior Vice President here at Magic Software Enterprises, and I'm your host for today's webinar. We're happy to have two special guests today from Koos Manufacturing. They are Albert de Guzman, Technical Manager at Koos Manufacturing, and David Gumpel, Business Analyst for Koos. Welcome, gentlemen. Thanks for joining us.
Our pleasure. Our pleasure. Thanks for having us, Glenn.
Absolutely. And just as we begin here, a couple of housekeeping items, and then I'll have a brief introduction before I pass it over to David and Albert. I wanted to just briefly mention who Magic Software is, today's host. We're a global provider of application development and integration solutions. Magic, of course, has been in business since 1983. We're traded on the NASDAQ Stock Exchange under the ticker symbol MGIC. Our 2016 revenues have not been reported yet, but we reported $176 million in 2015. We have some 1,300 employees from about 24 global offices. We serve customers in over 50 countries. We work with about 3,500 global partners and have millions of users worldwide. The solution that you will be hearing about today from Magic Software is called the Magic XPI integration platform. And so we would just point out that it has capabilities for allowing you to connect a wide variety of business systems, either on-premise or in the cloud, and those would include Oracle applications such as Oracle JD Edwards that we'll hear about today, as well as a wide variety of third-party applications, either through direct components written for those applications or through components that we might call technical components that are written for the APIs of those applications through technologies such as web services, database integration, file communication protocols, and so forth. So all of that is just by way of background to introducing our guests today again. They are Albert de Guzman, Technical Manager from Koos Manufacturing, and David Gumpel, who is a business analyst and I believe will be starting us off today. So I want to welcome you both again and turn control of the webinar over to you so that you can advance your slides. I'm going to hand that over to David and make you the presenter, and you can share your slides with us today.
All right. Thank you very much, Glenn. Just having a little bit of technical difficulty with my machine right now. So, all right. So once again, thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. I'm just going to pull up my notes here. We're here from Koos. We're just going to quickly give a little introduction about ourselves, a little overview about Koos Manufacturing, put everything into context about how we've structured our B2C platform, our whole e-commerce side of the business, and then really dive into how we were able to work with Magic to build a really tight integration between Demandware and JD Edwards. So going forward, I'll let Albert introduce himself.
Hi, I'm Albert de Guzman. I'm the Enterprise Technical Manager here at Koos. I've been here over 2+ years now doing the implementation for JD Edwards from their legacy system. I have over 17 years of JD Edwards development experience. Started in '99, and yeah, that's pretty much it for myself. David?
And I'm David. I'm a business analyst here at Koos. Before joining Koos, I've been focusing as an e-commerce analyst, working on a variety of different websites, doing prepaid calling cards, Wi-Fi hotspots in hotels and airports, really building out those portals that you see whenever you just want to connect to the network. And now working with Koos, helping with their e-commerce side and also all the logistics. I also serve as the warehouse BA, if you will. So my specialty is working with payment processing and fulfillment, and I started last year right around this time with Coos, and it's been a fantastic year working with them. A little bit about Coos Manufacturing. It was founded by Yul Koo back in 1978. He's a right now a second generation apparel manufacturer. His son now manages the AG brand. And we were founded back in '78. We started really just focusing on the manufacturing aspect. And then in 2000, Mr. Koo, he really saw the opportunity to go fully vertical, and he bought out the brand of AG Jeans of Adriano Goldschmied. So we design, we manufacture, we do all of our shipping from here in Southgate, California, just in the middle of Los Angeles, not too far from the new Ram Stadium. And we also have another factory down in Mexico in Aguascalientes, which manufactures everything exclusively for Big Star, the other brand that we manage here. Looking at some of the pictures here, we have a few shots of our factory as well as some of our retail presence. We have 13 retail stores across the U.S. as well as offering our jeans in major retailers such as Bloomingdale's, Nordstrom's, Saks Fifth Avenue, all the big box retailers. Big Star also has presence in those retailers, but they unlike AG don't have any brick and mortar presence for their own standalone stores. Our design team for both brands is here in Southgate, and AG, as I mentioned before, AG is manufactured exclusively here in Southgate. Big Star is manufactured in Aguascalientes, Mexico. A little background about where we were coming from. So far, we've launched JD Edwards internally. Before that, we were working on a lot of different platforms. We had WMS, which is a warehouse management system. We had KMS, which is our manufacturing system, and WinFashion, which was our sales order management. So we had a lot of different systems, and these are the three big ones. We also had a lot of other platforms in there doing smaller functions. But as you can imagine, there's a lot of different systems trying to talk to each other. Emphasis on trying. There was a lot of issues there. We weren't entirely confident in the data. There wasn't a single point of truth, since we had to make sure that reconcile all this data across all these different platforms. So this became a huge pain point for the business. We wanted to bring everything into one single system, into the JD Edwards ERP system. And in terms of the e-commerce side, we've been managing our website internally for a bit. We had One Stop manage it, which is a third-party vendor out there. They were doing a great job, but One Stop made things a little bit tricky. We didn't have as much flexibility with them, and they really wanted to manage every aspect of the website for us. Since we've been phasing One Stop out, we've been having to really bring everything in-house. So this was where Magic really was able to help us. We were able to build all of these tight integrations between Demandware, JD Edwards, between CyberSource and JD Edwards, CyberSource and Demandware with PayPal. We've been able to really have tight integrations between all these different platforms to really drive the website and make everything flow smoothly. All the data is flowing really nicely now. All the departments have better visibility. We have regular reports that are scheduled to send different emails with different metrics to all the different directors for the various departments, including manufacturing, so they know exactly how much they need to be manufacturing for e-commerce as well as our B2B side. So now bringing everything into one system, we have better visibility and we can track every single cost down to the penny. So I already kind of touched on some of this. Little background of our e-commerce setup. We outsourced AG e-commerce to One Stop. They did the platform. They developed everything for the site. They did our marketing. They handled all of our logistics. They have a warehouse actually not too far from us in Southgate where they handled all of the shipping. And one of the biggest things that they took for us was took care of us for us was the call center service. They had all of our customer support taken care of. One of the things that we did was we did a really thorough analysis, and we saw that One Stop was doing a great job, but we wanted to bring the B2C business to the next level. We really wanted to expand this rapidly, and they were, because of their cost structure, because of some of their software limitations, we saw the only way that we could grow the business as quickly as we wanted to was bringing everything in-house. So we spent a good amount of time just looking at all the different options out there. We worked with different design studios, really rebuilding the whole website, the whole look and feel, making it a very high-end customer-centric experience that's really tailored to each user. Very similar to, if you go into any of our brick-and-mortar stores in Beverly Hills and South Coast Plaza in Las Vegas, you'll see as soon as you walk in, you have one of the retail clerks coming up to you, offering you assistance, offering you a beverage if you're thirsty, really trying to understand what you're looking for in whatever garment you want to purchase, whether it's jeans, jackets, shirts. We sell, the full outfit, so they really want to make sure that they're finding that right style for you and really tailoring that experience. We wanted to bring that that same experience that you have in the brick and mortar, we wanted to bring that online. So Demandware really helped us. They have a lot of strong partnerships and integrations, and the key to all of this success was Magic, really. They were able to help us integrate everything so smoothly with JD Edwards, making all of this data flow and making it very easy for us to get everything up and running fairly quickly. The Magic support has been phenomenal throughout this whole process. So for B2C, there's 4 pillars of e-commerce here at AG. We have the technology, operations, digital marketing, and merchandise. The digital marketing and merchandise, we have the e-commerce department really focusing on that, but Coos IT, we've really been focusing on the technology and operations. We want to make sure that the data is flowing properly, that everything is integrated correctly, that our fraud management is working properly. So as you can see on this slide, within technology, the platform, the integration, PCI compliance, hosting, design, processing, content management, we've dabbled in a lot of these things. We used to be PCI compliant, but we didn't want that burden anymore. It was a massive headache. It's a giant pain to stay up to date with compliance. You have to have a lot of just physical security as well as cyber security for that, and it's just not worth the headache. So we were able to outsource that piece. Customer service, previously we had One Stop doing it, which was phenomenal, and we want to keep our customers informed every step of the process, every stage of that order, from order entry to fulfillment. We want to make sure that they're informed. So we're bringing that in-house as well, just to make it easier for our customer service reps to be able to notify customers. But really with Magic, we were able to get all of these notifications that customers are receiving, all those automated emails. They have to be triggered from some process that's happening in our warehouse, and then communicate that to Demandware. So Magic was able to be that bridge. Coos also, we faced a unique situation for fulfillment and returns. We're phasing out One Stop and bringing all this fulfillment in-house. So right now this is a different challenge, because on top of all the platforms within the company, we're also integrating. Previously we were integrating to the One Stop platform. So now we want to bring all of this in-house, and we want to make sure that we're able to fulfill both B2B and B2C orders without any hiccups. And more importantly, we want to make sure that our account management department, that they're able to have a good view of our inventory levels, of our ATS, make sure that they have a good snapshot of everything that's going on there. With that, I'm going to now pass the phone over to Albert, who's going to talk a little bit more about why we were choosing Magic, how we were able to really work with them, and all the success of the integration.
Hi there, this is Albert de Guzman. On this slide, why Magic for integration? First, we'll go through some of the challenges and advantages there are between the point-to-point and the middleware integration. For point-to-point offers short-term savings, but in the long term, it can prove more costly. The architecture for point-to-point is okay when there are a few connections or integrations between systems, but those can add up as the systems that you need to connect to increase with your growing business. So the upfront costs for the point-to-point system integration can be deceiving. It can be good if you don't expect any growth, but that's not realistic if you're trying to grow a business, which AG is trying to do. It can quickly become challenging to support and scale business demands when the integration requirements grow. The integrations in point-to-point are tightly coupled between the two systems, which means it's not easy to change out those systems as needed when there are new releases or system updates to our third-party systems. All components need to be refactored, and depending on the number of connections, placing those legacy systems could take months, if not years. Middleware advantages include loosely coupled integrations. This means that components or systems connected to the middleware are independent. Changes in one of the components shouldn't affect the operation of the others. This in turn adds the benefit of replacing, modifying those systems with lower impact to the overall system integration. The middleware offers a service-oriented architecture. Application components provide services to third parties via a communication protocol. Middleware also allows for real-time scheduled batches or ETL flexibility depending on the requirements of your business. Next slide. Okay. Next slide.
Glenn?
Oh.
Thank you.
So why did we choose Magic for integrations as our middleware solution? The development capabilities of Magic software is where it really makes it stand out. There isn't any more reading or writing of code for integration. It's an easy GUI to pretty much drag and drop your source to your destinations for the mappings that you need. It can handle various sources from flat files to XML files to integrations with the API calls from third-party systems. The adapters that come with Magic for the JDE software were there already for us. So we literally have access to all the functions in the JD Edwards library through the components that came with the Magic. Both vanilla and custom business functions can be called from outside of JD Edwards, which means that the procedures specific for our Cruise implementation, the business processes, can be accessed and activated externally. And also the project reusability for these functions can be used for different processes based on need. So those were the big things on why we chose Magic for our integration. Next slide. The Magic XPI server. The server is a robust solution that can integrate different systems. It has a simplified architecture versus other middleware like Fusion with multiple server layers. We can use a variety of different methods to manage how transactions communicate with the server. Real-time event-based triggers, scheduled flow processes, or batch processes for ETL type integration solutions. The platform also allows the usability to create error handling mechanisms, as David mentioned earlier. Of those, we have email notifications, error logging for user interface screens, and process log reporting. These help us in the troubleshooting and debugging of transactions when certain flows go into error. Also, it also notifies us if the Magic servers go down. It emails the customer service representatives when certain orders don't make it through or there's not enough inventory. Refunds and shipment notices go out to the customer, and any other errors that the IT department need to respond to. So our story. This slide represents all the different systems that we're currently using for our e-commerce solution. Demandware, this is the storefront. This is the website that the customers see. Has a look and feel that we at Coos spent collaboratively spent a lot of time and effort to give the customers that specific AG look and feel that that you see on the website. Demandware, you can place for your orders on the website, check availability, and determine our pricing. In the middle there, JD Edwards, that's our system of record. So this replaced the legacy systems for the AMD department, the account management department, as well as the warehouse pick, pack, and shipping for B2B. The legacy systems before JD Edwards were disparate. They weren't integrated. So when the AMD department sent out orders, they were unsure of whether there was enough inventory in the warehouse to actually fulfill the order. And they would need to make phone calls to the warehouse department to check if they can actually place an order for a B2B, whether or not they could fulfill it that day, or we would need to wait a certain number of weeks before we can fill the order. This resulted in a lot of man hours lost and loss of confidence in the data for the legacy system. We chose JD Edwards because of its reputation as a Tier 1 ERP to handle the growth of that we were expecting for AG, as well as for the apparel module that JD Edwards had integrated within its ERP. And then on that last pillar there, it's a one-stop. They were responsible for all our fulfillment for the B2C. Currently, they provide our customer service, but we have plans on bringing that in-house, and they handle all the shipments and returns for the B2C integration. And then Magic is the integration tools that tie all those systems together. This is done through flat files, API calls, and XML file transformation. So the next slide, order migration into JD Edwards. This slide speaks to how we are bringing our orders in from Demandware into JD Edwards. Orders, they're created in Demandware and are marked for export on their system. These exported orders are placed on the FTP site in the XML format, which JD Edwards then picks up and imports it into JD Edwards. The files include customer information, order product information, gift messages, and payment information. Failure emails are then triggered. Actually, the customer information, order product information are actually outbound to Demandware. The orders and the payment information comes into JD Edwards. So there's a two-way communication. There's both an outbound and inbound component to our integration with Demandware. Failure emails are then triggered during export process for exceptions, and then order creation status is sent to Demandware once the order is generated in JD Edwards. Order export to OneStop. So once the order is created in JD Edwards, we mark those ready for OneStop export so that they can have the orders on their site. So at any one time, Demandware has an order, JD Edwards has an order, and then OneStop has that same order. Again, JD Edwards is the system of record, so in JD Edwards we can see what the Demandware order number is, as well as what the OneStop order number is. Magic selects orders at particular status from our JD Edwards database and builds an XML file for OneStop. This is done through an SQL query into our database. A RESTful API is then done once the order is at a particular status and sent over to OneStop. JD Edwards is then updated with the OneStop order ID once they create the order in their system. And then the OneStop CSRs are provided a limited view of our JD Edwards inquiry screen so that they can manage at any time where an order is in the shipping process. Next slide. The ship, cancel, return process from OneStop. In this flow, OneStop will provide all the above processes in a flat file placed on an FTP folder. Magic will use FTP to bring those over to JD Edwards for processing. Since OneStop performs all their fulfillment, they have to do availability checking. For any items that are not available at the OneStop facility, these orders are then transferred to JD Edwards for fulfillment. So we fulfill on a limited basis some of the B2C orders that can't be fulfilled at OneStop. There are plans for us to bring that whole fulfillment process into JD Edwards. That should be coming in March sometime. So slowly we're bringing those in-house for fulfillment and phasing out the OneStop integration. If there are no items here that we can fulfill the order, the orders are then canceled, and then a message is sent to the user, the customer, saying that there aren't any more availability of that particular style. And then product pricing and availability to sell, ATS. This is the outbound component for Demandware. On a scheduled basis, the content for Demandware is updated. new styles as they get created, updated pricing as we have special promotions or sale events or just changes in our price points. Those get updated to Demandware. Availability based on whether or not we get a shipment from our Mexico facility, or once we complete any work orders here at the AG manufacturing plant. Those get updated and then sent over to Demandware to update their website with our new inventory. These XML files are placed on their network and then by Magic, and then Magic picks up these files and transforms them into specific formats specified by Demandware. And that's pretty much the process for our B2C integration here at Coos. And on that note, I'll hand it over to David to provide the summary of.
So yeah, thank you, Albert. Just to quickly recap some of the measures of success. Payment processing, Magic has been able to help us build really tight integrations with CyberSource and PayPal, keeping everything fully compliant, and we don't have to worry about any of the burden of having our facilities be PCI compliant. Magic also took it a step further by helping us with CyberSource Decision Manager, which really helps us with our risk and fraud management. So now every transaction has that extra layer of security to make sure that we're not fulfilling orders used by a stolen credit card or any blacklisted customers or users. Customer service, it's really helped us a lot because of the notifications and because of the way that we're able to pass data back and forth from JD Edwards to Demandware via Magic. We're able to get these notifications to customers that their order has been accepted, their order is being fulfilled, their order has shipped. Every step of the way, we're able to keep our customers informed. Magic's also really helped us with all the data flowing rapidly across all these platforms, so that we can process and fulfill these orders well before the cancel dates. And in the apparel space, everything is driven by cancel date. So Magic has helped us stay well on top of that and keeping any orders from falling through the cracks and making sure that the system doesn't cancel out any orders, resulting in a very upset customer, as you can imagine. With Demandware, they've really helped us integrate with not just Demandware itself, but also with all of the different vendors on the Demandware marketplace, all those other applications, those great little widgets that they have on there. They've made that a very easy process. And one of the kind of the most basic things that you think of, but it's actually a very complicated thing from a system standpoint, is they're helping us bridge the gap between e-commerce and in-store. So one of the simplest things that you probably do every day is you'll order something online, and say Nordstrom's or any of the big box retailers, and then you'll try it on, it might not fit, so you'll go to the store to return it or exchange it out. Right out of the box, none of Demandware doesn't really help you with that. JD Edwards isn't going to help you with that. Magic was the only one that was really able to help us bridge the gap between our platform that we're using in the stores and allowing our retail clerks to accept these returns and accept these exchanges. The last thing I want to touch on is the Magic support, because this has really been phenomenal over my last year since I first even learned of Magic, and with every project we've worked with them. As a BA, and really as more of a functional and not so technical BA, I only understand so much of these integrations. I only understand so much code, and then it really is all Albert's world. He's the one that knows what's going on or what questions to ask. So Magic has really been able to help us make educated decisions. They've been able to provide experts for each integration, whether it was PayPal or CyberSource or Smart Transaction for our gift cards. They've been able to bring in different tech experts that have worked on integrations like this in the past and make sure that we're taking the right approach for this, taking the best and cost-conscious approach, making sure that we're able to get this implemented quickly, smoothly, make sure that there's no gaps in the process, and really position our e-commerce business in a way that will allow us to grow as we intended, overcoming all of those obstacles that we were seeing with keeping everything outsourced. So we, at the end of the day, we really have to thank Magic a lot for being able to help us bring all of this business, our whole B2C business, in-house, because without them, we'd be building all these integrations from scratch, and we probably still wouldn't be up and running. With that, we want to close out the presentation. We want to thank you guys for all listening, and we will open it up to any questions.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Albert and David. We really appreciate your sharing your story. I think it's awesome when customers are able to, reveal some of the information behind the scenes and really help us all to better understand how the tools are applied to achieve business success as you've outlined. So we will invite you all now to enter your questions into the chat box or the question box, and we'll take those questions in order and try to get you some answers. So we'll give you just a moment to fill those out. Just looking to see what we have coming in so far. I don't see any yet, so I did have a question for you, Albert, and that is that as an experienced JDE developer, how hard was it to learn Magic? What was the process that you went through to learn Magic and kind of knowledge transfer and all that kind of thing?
It wasn't hard at all. I took the training course over at the Laguna Niguel facility. It was a 3-day course. It was a crash course because of the time limitation we needed as we were going live with our JD Edwards system. So Magic actually conducted a private session for myself as well as 2 other developers here at Cruise. It was a 3-day event, and it was pretty short. The teacher was well versed in the tool, and he showed us how to bring in XML, make that transformation, and pretty much it was connecting JD Edwards to Magic, and then again, it was just a drag and drop what fields we needed from the source, and then inserted it into our Z files into JD Edwards. And then from there, JD Edwards uses the standard processes to create the orders for us. And outbound, same thing. The tool was able to query our SQL database and then create XML files based on that.
Okay, great. I have a question regarding the non-JD Edwards integration that you're doing. Aside from Demandware, you talked about your payment service provider and so forth. What type of technology was that? Was that a REST API that you were using? How are you integrating with those services?
We have a REST API that we use for one-stop.
For one-stop?
It sends out our JD Edwards order information to one-stop for them to create the orders on a real-time basis.
Okay, great. There's a question here. Does Magic provide integration between JD Edwards Enterprise One and Concur invoicing? That's a great question. I don't think you've done it there at Coos, but the approach would be the same as doing integration to one of your payment source providers or fraud management and so forth. In that the JD Edwards component in Magic XPI is used to handle the connectivity to JD Edwards, and then usually the REST API component of Magic is used to handle the communication back and forth to Concur. and Concur has, of course, a published REST API. So then Magic does all the data mapping, all the brokering, and the communications between all of those, just as it has done in similar fashion here between JD Edwards and some other third-party systems that provide APIs and gateways in and out of those products. So good question, and it would be very similar to what we've talked about here today, but just a different REST API. The other question was, let's see, thought there were two here. No, it's the same question. Okay. I had a question for David too, which is, David, as a business analyst, what would you say is the low-lying fruit for a company that's looking to integrate an ERP system like JD Edwards with an e-commerce platform like Demandware? What are some of the business processes that can really benefit from this type of integration?
I mean, really just some of the customer support aspects, being able to, assuming that you are going to be working also with some of the other vendors on the Demandware marketplace, really communicating with customers without actually having to lift any fingers. All those automated emails, that takes care of a lot of customer support. One of the other ones where Magic also really helped us was also with the fraud management, because that one, you're legitimately just giving away money without good fraud management. So they with the CyberSource and Decision Manager integration, that one was also somewhat low hanging. Just it's a very obvious one. You want to make sure that you are processing the right types of transactions. Trying to think what other low hanging ones there are, but yeah, I think customer service is one of the biggest ones. We were really able to present our reps through JD Edwards all the information they need without disclosing too much on Demandware side, and really pass all this information to the customer so that they're constantly informed.
And did I understand correctly that you talked about gift card integration and smart transactions? Is that another third-party service that you're using, or could you just tell us maybe a little bit more about that?
Yeah, sure. So Smart Transaction, they're a third party. They specialize in gift cards, and yeah, it's one of those things that gets very, very complicated, because if I were to buy you a pair of jeans through our website, Glenn, and you don't like that style or you don't fit into that size, it's going to be very difficult for you to just go to a store and just exchange it out, because they need to reference the original order number. They won't even be able to really see any of that online. And if they're going to give you a gift card, then how they need to generate this gift card in store, tapping into funds that are only visible on JDE's side. So it's a little bit complicated. When you're not deep in the details. You think that it's a straightforward process, but it's not as straightforward as you think. So that's one thing that we've been able to work with you guys to make sure that customer has that same experience in store, online, that they're able to exchange merchandise no matter where they are, and consumer, or whether it's a gift or a regular purchase.
Sure. And David, also as a business analyst, what were the advantages of working with the Demandware platform versus the others you considered? What entered into your decision to select that Demandware versus the 100 other e-commerce platforms that are out there?
I actually wasn't personally involved in that decision. I joined the project after they had already chosen Demandware, but from my experience with Demandware, and I've had some experience with some of the other ones with WooCommerce, with Magento, just working straight out of PayPal even. Demandware, they're a fairly intuitive platform. It is a little bit easier to use, and that that's really all that I can speak of on the Demandware side, since I wasn't involved in that decision. Sorry.
No problem. And then also, Albert, I think you mentioned that Magic was doing a SQL query into the JD Edwards database. Did I understand that correctly? And I was just kind of wondering if you could expound upon that, how that was taking place.
So Magic has these built-in components that allow it to access our JD Edwards system, but it also allows us to access our SQL server. So you can generate any query you want with us using SQL and pull out any data that you need to. In this instance, our orders at a particular order creation status 520, and then selects those, gathers up the records that need to get exported to OneStop, and then one by one creates an XML format accepted by OneStop. Oh no, by Demandware to create the orders for them. So in short, Magic has the ability to think in any database of your system, as long as you have the credentials. You set up the credentials for within the Magic XPI, and then they can ping the database easily.
Great. And then in terms of the working relationship between the two of you on this project, how did you go about communicating the requirements, David, to Albert, and then Albert, when you were implementing them, how did you go about communicating back, what had been created and accomplished? What was the process for that?
Well, basically, to start off the project, we had a pretty much a mapping document from our JD Edwards system, and then we had a file structure for Demandware and as well as OneStop. What David provided me were the field mappings from the orders within JD Edwards, and then we just mapped to the XML format that is required for Demandware, as well as the file structure for the flat files for OneStop. So we sit in the same room. So any questions that he had and I had, we could just ask each other. But pretty much he provided the mappings for the fields between the systems.
Okay, great. I don't see any other questions coming in at this point, so I want to again thank you both very much for your presentation. It was very informative, and I think everyone on the call has appreciated it. And I want to thank our audience for joining us today. Invite you to go to the Magic website at magicsoftware.com, or to contact us here in North America at 949-250-1718, extension 259, or send us an email at info@magicsoftware.com should you have any follow-up questions. So with that, again, thank you all, and we look forward to seeing you again another day. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.